I called myself the new feature of the Javaland because this year it's the first time we have the moderator in front of the talk itself. And I was told that I can tell a little bit about the Java user group because every moderator is from a Java user group. I'm from the Java user group Switzerland. And I invite everyone to mail us if you have a talk and you want to do a talk in Switzerland, because then you get this really cool original Swiss knife with a really cool branding. Just mail to info@jac.ch. So now to the talk. We have two Ghostbusters here, as you can see on the stage.
Boilerplate busters.
Boilerplate busters.
Yes.
Yeah. Boilerplate busters, okay. And I think they will tell us a lot more and a lot more about Lombok. I think most people know Lombok. I learned in my career there are only two people, one love and one hate Lombok. So let's see what they will tell us today. It's your stage.
Reinier,
Yeah.
do you recognize the music?
Oh, I do. I think everybody recognizes this music.
Who knows this song? Okay, you know the music, but I'm gonna give you new lyrics. And we're all soon gonna do the lyrics together. We're gonna sing, right?
Ready?
Right?
Ready?
If
If too much goes
and it don't look good,
who you gonna call?
Boilerplate Busters!
Thank you. So thank you and welcome to our talk. My name is Reinier Zwitserloot and I work at Zorg op Orde, which is a company in the Netherlands, and we help general practitioners run their practice more efficiently with smart software.
And my name is Roel Spilker. I work at Topdesk. We make service management software, and we have development departments in Delft, in Budapest, and in Kaiserslautern.
Oh, and we do make one more thing.
Yes, Lombok. Who of you uses Lombok? Oh, wow.
Oh, wow,
A
all
lot
right.
of you. Let's have a celebration.
Celebration?
Yes.
Is there a party? What are we celebrating?
Next July is going to be Lombok's 10th anniversary.
10 years?
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that calls for cigars, maybe a nice scotch, you know, maybe we need to sit down for a second. 10 years of boilerplate busting, wow.
Let's do the fun part, like the drinking part tonight.
Okay.
Yeah? I am now more in the mood to reflect, to look back at those 10 years.
I guess if we want to celebrate again 10 years from now, maybe it's a good idea to sort of take a moment, think about our biggest mistakes, and think about how we solve them. And we will share these lessons with you. So I remember, I have a good one, right? So
Yeah.
I remember issue 164. It's an old one. It's a big one. I mean, I think I have some gray hairs from this one. We got null pointer exceptions. There were lots of bug reports. We could never reproduce it, but eventually we figured it out. It was a race condition, and all we had to do was remove static from one field. I think the amount of time I spent to remove these 6 characters, that was like the most time spent ever for any character in my career.
Yeah, so those are nice war stories to talk about tonight. So, but others can learn from that particular mistake. So I want to see what mistakes did we do while running this open source project.
So you want to maybe have some lessons that are more useful for any...
Yes.
Yeah. I think I know the mood you're in.
Yeah.
But I did notice that we had the painting The Wave by Hokusai. What does that have to do with it?
Yeah, I thought let's be humble in the presence of masterpieces, of richtige Meisterwerke.
Okay. I think I know how you feel.
Yeah.
I think I have a Meisterwerk for you.
Okay,
Are you ready?
yeah, I'm ready.
How do you like that one?
So sometimes I get this guy. I mean, when I look at our GitHub issue tracker and I see the amount of open issues.
583? Wow.
Yeah, and 3 of those were just yesterday. So it keeps piling up and piling up. So we get so many bug reports, feature requests, pull requests. It's just too many of them.
So,
Yeah, so I want to scream like Edward Munch.
so I'm not quite sure what happened. I remember, it was almost 10 years ago, we got our very first bug report. And it was adorable, because it meant we had at least one user. Right? We jumped on that. We dropped everything we were doing. We fixed it in like an hour. We were all excited. And then I don't know, stuff happened. 9 years, 10 years later, and now we're all like, make it stop, please.
Yeah.
So where did we go wrong? How did we end up with 583 open issues?
So I don't know exactly what the moment was where it went wrong, but when we started, or since we started, every Monday night we sit together and we work on Project Lombok. And in the beginning, we mainly spent time on creating features, and then it was creating features and doing some bugs. And eventually, what we've noticed is that we're spending more time on responding to bug reports. And yeah, and that's how we end up with 538 open issues.
83.
Oh, 83. And the thing is, it's just the amount of open issues makes it worse. I mean, people ask us questions. When are you going to resolve this bug? It's been open for a year already, or a few weeks.
Oh, and I guess if you have this many open bug reports, it tends to lead to more duplicates as well. It's
Yes.
hard to search through.
Yes. So we need to change something. And actually, we did. So since the beginning of this year, we have a new policy. And the policy is that we are going to handle all new issues that have been added since last week, because we do it every week, and we're gonna like either try to close them or fix them if it's really really easy,
Hopefully.
or sorry,
Hopefully.
or if it's not entirely immediately clear for us, we ask the users to provide us with a better description, a simple test case, really concise, so that we can actually fix the bug. And we ask them, be more clear, then we put a label on the issue, parked, and we typically type in the comments, if you're not going to respond within 2 weeks, we're just going to close the issue.
But that's pretty ruthless.
Yes.
I mean, if we get bug reports and it's really clear, I mean, I remember 164, right? It's really clear something is wrong, but the bug report isn't like complete enough that we have like a tightly reproducible test case, etc. What do we really have to just say, hey, we just have to close them in 2 weeks if we get no further responses?
So first, if it's really a bug, someone that encounters a bug should be able to write a easy test case for this.
Fair enough.
So we have to trust our users.
Right.
Also, if I'm going to give you 3 options.
Okay.
Option 1, have over 1,000 open bug reports.
Pass.
Second, spend all our Monday nights chasing weird bugs that occur somewhere and trying to reproduce it and fix it.
Can I phone a friend?
No, there's no friends here. Well, there might be. I don't know. And option 3 is be ruthless.
Okay. I do guess, I do think we have to be ruthless.
We have to be ruthless. We have to do whatever it takes to clean the backlog. So our lesson is to make sure that you have the time to add value, clean your backlog.
So if we're talking about bugs, right, that kind of reminds me. We get into a bit of a, I think I kind of feel like this sometimes. Because what happens is we get a bug report. It's a good one, right? And we figure that out. We write a reproducible test case, or they did, and we start fixing it. But then in like the week we spent fixing it, 3 new bug reports come in for the same thing. But then we fixed it. And you know, we're all happy, celebrations, and we post, we fix it, here's the git commit where we fixed it, right? But then, I mean, we're not going to spin off a release every day or every week. So then, while we already fixed it, we get more bug reports with people saying, hey, it doesn't work for us either. So now we're really feeling the pressure. We need to put out a new release. But the problem is, usually, life is just not that simple, right? We're not 100% sure we actually fixed it. So we would actually, we asked the original reporter, but also all the other people who reported this bug, hey, could you test it? Did we actually fix it? And what we also want is feedback, because maybe we broke something else, right? We have lots of users. We don't use Lombok the same way all our users do. So, you know, maybe they'll figure something out. But then we do feel this pressure. We have to, you know, we have to push out new releases. So maybe we push out a new release a little too soon, which means we get more bugs, which means we get more bug reports, which means we get this cycle, and I feel like this. So I think I understand, Roel, why you chose this painting for me.
Yeah, but also I think that this masterwork, the Möbius script by Escher, can help us be an inspiration for a solution.
I think I think we did get our inspiration from this feeling of being in a loop and in a cycle. What we did, I think about halfway through the life of Lombok, we realized that we were not really doing a good job asking for feedback. Because what we would do is we would say, hey, we fixed the bug, it's in this commit, and then we're done. Except that does mean that any user who wants to give feedback, they would have to clone the Git repo, they'd have to build Lombok, they would then have to integrate this build product into their project, and then they can give us feedback. I mean, maybe people should just do that, but in practice, that's relatively hard to do. So we thought, hey, why don't we upgrade our build systems so that we can push an edge release, right, what some people call a nightly release, and we will put a jar completely built, ready to go, on our website, and we list like the change log with the changes we made in this edge release. So now, if somebody asks us for a feature that is in our nightlies, or a bug that we probably fixed, or we even just want some feedback, then we can just say, look, you can just get our edge release, give it a spin, let us know how it works out.
So they have a jar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that it's possible to add a jar to my local Maven repo, so I can just, I need to release it there. So it's doable, but it's not nice.
No, so it's still difficult. So what we did a year ago is we decided we can make it even easier to get feedback. And this is what we've done. We have created our own Maven repository, because now if somebody says, hey, I just want to give the nightly a spin, all they have to do is add this one repository and update the version string of their Lombok dependency, and then they can try it. And what we figured out is now that we have made it this easy, now we get a lot more feedback, because now it's actually possible for bigger teams to share this across their team, etc., without jumping through hoops.
So if I get it right, is the mistake we made is we made it too hard for users to test our work in progress.
Yes, so the lesson is to make it easy for your users to give feedback, release nightly snapshots.
Wow, that's a nice painting. Looks like a party going on. What are those? Is it, are a lot of people are GitHub users?
I guess so.
So what is the name of this painting?
So this,
Oh.
Right, so I think if you're talking about GitHub users, I think we got a pull request.
Ah, yes. Oh, this is a good one.
Oh,
I
is it?
love this pull request. This is
Awesome.
great. So, as you see, he describes what he wants to achieve. He added documentation as part of the pull request.
Did it add tests?
He had tests. He had the implementation. It worked.
Surely the code style is like not quite how we do it.
No, he did. He followed our code.
Awesome.
It was the perfect pull request.
I like people
we
like
found
this.
it.
You got to tell me more about this pull request. Well, what does it do?
Okay, so in Lombok we have a two-string annotation, and you can put it on a type, and then on the top I have a rendering of a two-string. So what he said is, instead of just having painting, would be the normal case for Lombok, he said, I want to see the fully qualified name of the type. And then instead of the opening parenthesis after that, I want to have the curly brace.
But then, as a closing parenthesis, you want to have a bracket. That's a bit odd, isn't it?
It's artistic license.
Okay, so you're painting a painting now.
Yes.
Okay.
And he said, between the name of the field and the value, I want to have a colon instead of an equal sign.
Okay.
And between the fields, I want to have a pipe symbol as separator.
All right, well, it's like your personal little art project. But before we start, let's add the parameters that the two-string annotation already has. Let's just build the full list then.
Yeah. Okay, this is better. Oh, there was a note in his pull request. He said, maybe instead of always using the fully qualified name, if I look at some log frameworks, they have this abbreviated version. That's instead of com.topdesk.art.painting, I want to have c.t.a.
Oh, and that's good, because then if we find other styles, we can just add them. How about this? We'll just make it an enum.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, and we can even decide to drop the whole name of the type if you're not interested in that.
Oh, yeah, that's a good, like none or something.
Yeah.
Cool, I like it.
Yeah. And I have also some other suggestions while we're at it. Because the artist name is a string, but I can't see it's a string.
Okay.
So maybe you can put quotes around Euronymous Bos?
Yeah, I prefer not to do that. But I guess if you prefer to do it, that means we should make it configurable, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
there we go.
Yeah,
How
and
about
the date, it says the 1st of October 1500. It's a bit too specific. We don't know. It's roughly that era. So I want to reflect it in my two-string.
Let's think. How about I give you the option that you can create custom renderers for fields?
Yes, good.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, I have another one.
Yeah.
You see this whole list of exhibitions, so there's
Uh-huh.
going to be a load of them.
It's beyond the
Yeah,
screen.
so if it's a lot of them, I just want to have the number. How
The
many?
number.
Like a different for the listy things. They say, if you go over this limit, just give me the number. It's also a
Okay.
performance thing.
Oh, sure. What if I just allow you to set the limit?
Yes, good.
Like this.
Yeah, and I have another one. If the value is null or an empty string, I want to skip it entirely. Yeah.
That is the dumbest idea I've ever heard, Roel.
Why?
Because my slide is full. I don't have any room for any more settings.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think it's really important.
I guess so, but we ran out. It's full. I don't want. I mean, the documentation can't become any longer
Yeah.
than this. We can't add any more features, Roel.
So we're back at the painting. The painting is The Garden of Earthly Delight by Hieronymus Bosch. And I think that the delight part is mainly on the left-hand side, because in the left we start in paradise, everything is nice and easy and simple. And then if you read it from left to right, in the right-hand side, you end up in hell with all chaos, all features.
So
And
what you're saying is you start out nice, GitHub users show up, and then all hell breaks loose.
something like that. So actually we had to reject this feature request, because having a feature request that sounds reasonable, so that's a pull request, which is fine, but that's the one time he spent on this. But for the rest of the time, we need to maintain the code. We are responsible for Lombok. So we need to maintain this code. We need to be aware of interactions with other and maybe even future modifications. For our users, there's a steeper learning curve, because they need to learn more about Lombok. So we really need to limit the features that we're adding.
Ah, I see. So what's the lesson?
The lesson is to prevent instabilities or a maintenance burden, add features carefully.
Talking about features, I remember the very first new feature that wasn't in the original Lombok release that we added. Very exciting times. And this feature is called delegate. So who here has heard about the notion of composition over inheritance? I see it's a particular concept. Just for the few, or just as a reminder, let's say you have an API and you need to be kind of like a list. You could extend array list, but composition over inheritance says maybe you should have a field, the field should be of type array list, and then you have all control. You can take whatever methods from the list API and add them to your API, and you can choose. And then the implementation is easy, just call your array list field. So they're all one-liners, they're all wrappers. And what delegate does is delegate says, well, I'm going to make that easy for you, and I will generate the wrappers for you. So this is a very cool feature, and it was a little tricky to make it, a little hard. We weren't quite certain that it would be bug-free, even when we released it. Also, the syntax is a little bit convoluted. We sort of tried to make it work, and we think we can do better. We're still not quite sure how, but there's this nagging feeling that maybe one day we'll do it a little differently and it'll be better. But there is a problem there, because, see, we know that delegate is, let's call it a little more out there, right? It's an experiment, but our users don't know. Maybe some of our users who read our git commit log messages or who check our forums, maybe they know, but that's certainly not all our users. And that's really a problem, because let's say tomorrow we do figure it out and we build a better delegate, and we just take the delegate that's in Lombok now and we replace it with this better option. You think, yay, Lombok is better now, but what's actually going to happen? We get hundreds, thousands of bug reports, because then we break everybody's code. So success kind of restrains you. All of a sudden, because your library is used in so many places, it becomes infeasible to change basically anything about it. You can only add completely new features. So what are we going to do? Add the delegate too? This does not sound like a good idea. So we need a solution in order to have the freedom to innovate, but still remain backwards compatible as much as we can, because backwards compatibility is very important. And we have solved this problem after delegate. So delegate is the only one where we didn't have the benefit of this problem. And here's what we have done. We have introduced the concept of an experimental feature. Now, these are still in the main release, but we mark them as such. And it's not just in the documentation, obviously we do, but what we also do is the actual annotation is in the experimental package. So it's lombok.experimental.delegate now. We moved it. The old one is still there because we want to be backwards compatible, but all the new features we release these days, we release it in experimental at first. And on our documentation, we actually explain what it'll take in order for it to migrate to our fully core supported set. And this gives us some flexibility. We can change it, At least it's easier. Also, it's more clear to our users that if, let's say, there's a really high-level bug report on add-data, and there's also a really big bug report on add-delegate, well, we work on the add-data one first. We're going to get to the add-delegate one, but data just has a higher priority. But with this experimental system, at least we're communicating to our users, and we've even gone so far, you can configure Lombok to warn you if you use experimental features, if you just really don't want to mess with this stuff. And that's why I went with this painting, which is the Victory Boogie Woogie from Piet Mondriaan, because I think he's a kindred soul, right? I mean, he's clearly like we have to sort of put everything in little boxes, put some stuff in the experimental box, etc. So that's why I really thought this painting would be a good lesson for us.
I think it is a big experiment entirely.
Yeah, well, that works too. So what's the lesson here, right? So the lesson is, in order to keep room for innovation while retaining backwards compatibility, mark your new features as experimental.
I know this picture. It's the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. It's probably one of the biggest masterpieces of all time.
Do you think when he painted it that he knew it was going to be a really big masterpiece?
I don't think so. I don't think that at the moment of painting, he realized that it would be one of the most famous paintings at present time. And so I'm not going to compare developing Project Lombok with this masterpiece. But
well, why not? I mean, it is our masterpiece, isn't it?
Maybe it's ours, but the future will tell if it's a big success. I don't think that 500 years from now, people will be talking about Project Lombok. But what I do realize is that we didn't anticipate to have such a successful open source project ourselves. And this has its own set of challenges. When we started 10 years ago, of course, we went to DevVox to talk about it. This is our third time here at Javaland. So we do try to let people know that it exists. But we did not expect that since last year when we were here, we have had over 1 million visitors on our website. We have nearly 40,000 each week. And it also means that you talked about backwards compatibility. That is a big problem, because if you have so many users, any change you're going to do is going to break someone's system.
True.
And also, we need to learn how to become an expert on hosting your website. I mean, if the website is down for a few minutes, people start mailing, hey, is there something wrong here? And that's not, I wanted to create code. I didn't want to put all my time on chasing some exotic bug that some user has in an atypical setup.
So what's the lesson then?
Yeah, the lesson is a bit vague this time. But
okay.
The lesson is to prevent nasty surprises, prepare for success. And I don't know how to do that, but at least in your mind, imagine like, if this is going to be a success, how am I going to cope with it?
Okay. Well, if you're talking about success,
yes,
that does remind me. We do get lots and lots of offers for contributions. So we get pull requests for bugs, always great. We get pull requests for performance enhancements, we love those. We get lots of pull requests for new features, and we also get something more generic, which is just an offer to help. And then they're looking at us, what do you need help with? It's always a harder question to answer than you might think. Now, the problem with contributors is, as nice as they are, at the end of the day, we are responsible. Right? I don't think it's reasonable if a contributor asks us for help or sends a pull request that we say, here's a contract, could you please sign that for the next 10 years you pledge to support this feature because we can't be bothered to do it. That's not how it works. I mean, if you press that merge button on a pull request, you are adopting the responsibility to maintain that thing, right? So you have to think about that. And there's another thing. When you run a project like this, people will look to you as the responsible party. And as an example, the Eclipse Foundation was using Project Lombok in one of their extensions. So they contacted us, and they had a really simple question for us. And they said, we noticed that you guys have an MIT-style license, and can you vouch for that? So we're like, what do you mean? Well, if we look at the code, it's not just like the commits aren't just Roel or Reinier, right? We have accepted code from other people. So can you vouch for them? And now I'm thinking, well, all I know is their GitHub identity. I haven't met these people. I don't have a contract with them. So how does this work? When we started Lombok, I didn't think I was going to need to be an expert in keeping websites up, and I certainly didn't think I needed to be an expert in legal matters. Right? So how do we solve this problem?
So what I did is my favorite solution. Look at how other people fix this.
Oh, that is a good idea.
Yes.
That's good
So,
advice.
Yeah, so I looked at a very popular Java open source project. In this case, it was Google Guava. And I looked at how they did it. And then I contacted the lead maintainer and I asked him 2 questions. I asked him, does it work? And I asked him, can we copy it?
Well, did it work?
Yes.
Oh, can we copy it?
Yes.
Okay, so what is it?
So they said, put in the root of your project directory, put a file called authors, and ask your contributors that on the first pull request, they are just going to insert their name in it. And in this file, there is a line in the bottom that says that they own the right of the code that they submitted, and they transfer it to the Project Lombok group.
Ah, I see.
And this works.
Okay. So this is a good idea, and we recommend anybody, even when you start an open source project, just start with this file, add your names, right? It's a good beginning. But there's a second thing. Who knows, when we're talking about names, who knows what this painting is called? Does anybody recognize it?
Yes. De Nachtwacht?
No, this is not a Nachtwacht at all. What makes you think that? This is actually the shooting company of Frans Banning-Kok and Willem van Ruitenburg, which is the official name of this painting. But fair enough, most people know this as the Night Watch. And that's sort of interesting, because how do we introduce ourselves with Project Lombok? Do we say Project Lombok? Or like, it's not really a company, right? So do we say Project Lombok by Roel Spilker Reinier Zwitserloot? Well, that's a mouthful. It's also not entirely true, right? So now we have a very easy solution. Project Lombok by the Project Lombok authors, as defined by the authors file in the Project Lombok repository. It makes much more sense. And then we don't have to like omit very useful contributions as well. So it makes for easier naming. But this legal matter, that's just one good idea. You still have this issue where you get an offer to contribute, and then they look at you for guidance as to, hey, what can we help with? And that's harder than you might think. And you need to prepare for this. But we are now doing this thing where every time we want to work on Lombok, we think about what we're about to do. And we try to classify it in 2 dimensions. So the first dimension is, how much do you need to know about the entirety of Lombok in order to build this thing, whatever we're talking about, be it like a bug fix, a feature, new website, right? Something like this. And if you don't need to know that much about Lombok to do it, that makes it an excellent candidate when somebody asks, hey, I would like to contribute. Because generally speaking, I mean, we have been working on Lombok for 10 years. They have not. But the second dimension you have to think about is the maintenance burden. So if a contributor contributes something, as I said, you take over responsibility to maintain it. So when a contributor or a would-be contributor asks to help, give them stuff where once they build it and you accept it, that the maintenance burden is low. Now, we are developers. We're not website designers. So an excellent area is actually our website is a contribution. Right? We have cool stickers. We didn't draw that, right? That drawing is a contribution, because you don't need to know the source code of Lombok in order to make that drawing, and it's relatively easy to maintain, right? From time to time, we order a couple of new ones at the printer. That's a good idea. And now, as a counterexample, we have like 3 times already people notice that we still build with Ant, and then we get a mail with, hey, I would like to contribute. How about I fix your build system? So first of all, they think there's something wrong with it. Secondly, your build system is like the heart of your code, and the Lombok build system calls the compiler, I think 12 times. You build 3 different jars, targeted at 5 different Java and ACJ versions. We integrate a compiler, and we rename a bunch of classes. There's a reason we use Ant, right? The entire build system is itself like half of a program, probably the most complex build out there. That maintenance burden on that build script is very high. If the build script is broken, then nobody can develop Lombok anymore. So we have to maintain it, obviously. Right? So that's like a counterexample. Even though lots of people think that would be a good place to start, that would not be. Right? So think, it's hard. Think, anytime you build a new feature, think about it. Think, is this a thing where you don't need to know that much about Lombok and the maintenance burden will be low? And then keep those around and maybe ask for contributions instead of building it yourself.
What's the lesson?
So the lesson here is, in order to use help from others, manage your contributors.
Speaking of contributors, let's talk about finance.
This is The Kiss by Gustav Klimt. And
Yes.
I think I see what's going on here. I see a lot of gold. It's all about the money, isn't it?
No, Reinier, this is about appreciation and affection.
It's about the love.
Yes, love. As I said before, we've been starting Lombok 10 years ago. And one of the first things we did is, well, obviously write some code, and then we wanted to have a domain, and then we need to do the hosting. And with the hosting comes bandwidth. And actually we have more costs. We have the stickers. So we have had a lot of costs, and we took those costs. We also go to these venues, like here, to speak.
True. Well,
Yeah.
for that one, at least, you may have noticed the top desk car outside with the logo, because for whenever we go to a talk, usually they at least sponsor us in the form of the trip and the hotel. So that's one way to go, corporate sponsorship. It does work.
Yeah, this one was easy. It's the one that pays for my day job. So easy to find and easy to convince. But the thing is, we started this when we were living together in a student house. We did not have, I wasn't married, you didn't have a girlfriend. We're now 10 years later, and the only thing we do is we keep spending time on the Monday evenings.
So that's 10 years, almost every Monday evening. So
Yeah, we
a lot of Monday
keep
evenings.
spending money on the hosting and all the other stuff. And my wife says, why do you have to keep doing this? I know it's a hobby, but it costs us money, you're not available for me. So what I would really like is every now and then, well, first of all, what I would really like is that we would be able to pay for the website, not ourselves, and
That'd be nice.
even better, that I can take her out to dinner, courtesy of Project Lombok, and say, this is what I get from doing these Monday nights.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Yes. And actually, we did do something, because 3 years ago, when we were here at Javaland, we were approached by several developers who said, my boss doesn't feel comfortable us using Project Lombok. I said, why not? And they said, because we're not paying them. And I said, why is that a problem? It's open source. They said, yeah, but our boss wants to make sure that you're still here 10 years from now. And we want to make it very, very easy for you to do so. And they wanted to be able to purchase a license or something. So we listened to them, and then last Javaland we announced that we have now several options for people to pay us. We added a donate button on our website for Patreon, and we also have the possibility to buy enterprise or professional licenses.
That sounds like a good record. So how many licenses have we sold already?
We've sold 3 licenses, 1 to an individual.
I guess that's not really paying the bills. Was one of them like Google or something?
Sorry?
Was one of them really big, like Google or something?
No. The biggest one was 6 developers.
Oh. That's
Yes,
a bit disappointing.
that was the biggest. Yes.
It's a bit disappointing.
Yeah. And of course we have this donate button, right? And we have, I know that we have over 1 million users. So cash must be rolling in.
Well, it's doing better, but it's not doing better than the license. It's not doing much better than the licenses.
No, actually, still with our current donations and our sold licenses, it isn't even enough to just pay for the bandwidth of our website and the maintenance costs. So we're not talking about all the other stuff, no. We just won't even cover the costs. So why do we do it? Well, we do it out of love, of course, but we want to have the other stuff. The main lesson is to make sure you can keep maintaining your product. Don't depend on donations. Find another way. Do corporate sponsoring. Do it just out of love if you can afford it. Self-support. Adopt a freemium model, but don't depend on donations.
So I've been thinking, Roel, and I've been thinking about our corporate licenses. And maybe, I mean, we're disappointed, but maybe I think I know what's going on. I think I might know why they aren't quite as successful as we hoped they would be. But I'm going to do a little thought exercise with you. Is it okay for you to stop desk as an example for this?
First, can you please give me an update on the time? How much time do we still have?
We still have about 7 minutes, I think.
5.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, feel free to use Stopdesk as an example.
Okay. Right. So it's a software product, right? It's like
Yes.
a Java product.
Yes.
Okay. So start with your build.
Yeah.
and take all the dependencies that Topdesk has.
Okay.
And then take all the dependencies that those dependencies have.
Okay.
And those and those and those. They
Yep.
follow the entire chain. But then I bet you use like a build tools, Git, probably Linux server somewhere, like CI tools, Jenkins. Right, take all those, all of them, put them in a big pile, and then all the dependencies they depend on, like Docker, everything you use. And then just add them. How many open source projects does Topdesk rely on one way or another? Just add them up for me.
Yeah. More than 500.
More than 500?
Yes.
So I assume you, how would you feel if one of these sort of fell out of the sky because they needed a tiny little bit of resources in order to keep the project going, but they didn't get them? How would
I would feel very bad.
Would feel bad. So why don't you just get 500 licenses?
So the thing is that it means that for each of these projects, some of them are really tiny. We need to figure out how we can pay them, and then and then a year later remember to pay them again.
That's more than one a day.
Yeah, that's like at least 2 a day. Yes.
Right. So I think therein lies a bit of a problem, right? But then that means Topdesk is basically praying that the maintenance of all these open source projects is just going to work out.
We at Topdesk have a saying. We don't believe in miracles.
I see.
We rely on them.
You rely on them, right. Now, we're not affiliated with these guys, but we were approached by Tidelift, which is a new company, and they are trying to solve this problem. And it's a fairly simple concept. So what they do is they say, okay, so imagine Topdesk again. They buy a single license from Tidelift. Tidelift runs some software in your network. They figure out all these dependencies, and they give you the list, and they give you a dashboard that serves for you. And they actually give you some help here. So they will give you a notification, for example, if one of the libraries you use has a license, which is not compatible with the way Topdesk is sold. Right? Legal compliance, always a big deal. Also, if some project is no longer maintained or you're using an old version, they'll let you know. And of course, if there's a security issue with a library, they will let you know immediately. Right, so that serves for you. But what they do with the fee, they take this fee, and they know exactly what you're relying upon. So they make sure that the open source projects that you rely upon, that they get some money in order to run some basic maintenance.
So they're going to find those open source projects?
They find them, and they found us. The only thing that we promise them is that we keep maintaining it and let them know if we don't. And if there are any security leaks, that we let them know immediately. That's it. And then we just get a little money, and that makes it much easier to just do the basic maintenance, right? And that solves the problem.
So you're suggesting that if you have a bigger company, instead of finding all those open source projects, you just go to Tidelift
and get one bill, one license.
So is there any other choices?
You can, well, before we summarize our lessons, you can still get a corporate license, and there's one advantage that you get when you buy a Lombok license instead of when you get a Tidelift subscription. You get the stickers.
You get stickers, yay. Actually, talking about stickers, we're celebrating today. So at the exit, there's going to be a few of my colleagues. You can recognize them in a Topdesk hoodie. Can some of you stand up? One, show them the hoodie. Yeah. It says Topdesk. Yeah. And they're going to have stickers. They're going to have red, fluffy wuppies. And they're going to have a webcam cover if you're interested.
So let's review.
Yes. To make sure you have time to add value, clean your backlog.
And to make it easy for your users to give early feedback, release your snapshots.
To prevent instabilities or a maintenance burden, add features carefully.
And in order to have a stable base, but still leave room for innovation, mark new features as experimental.
To prevent nasty surprises, prepare for success.
And to get help from others, while avoiding legal issues, manage your contributors.
And to make sure you can keep maintaining your products, don't depend on donations.
It's a kind of an interesting painting we made here, Roel.
Yes.
Clean your backlog and release snapshots. Add features carefully and mark them as experimental. Prepare for success, manage contributors, and don't depend on donations. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for the interesting talk. And if you have questions, please come down here to the stage. Both will stay here for about a few minutes to answer all your questions you may have. Thank you very much.